Okay, so we've planned to do chapter 114 today, but because the Radak says that 113 is the intro to 114, then we figured we might as well start by reviewing 113. So let's just try to do this. Hopefully we won't find any problems that lead to an unraveling of everything that we worked so hard to build and we'll have to learn the whole thing again. But sometimes that happens. I have not thought about this since Tuesday, so we're just going to try to do this again. So I'm not even going to read through the whole thing again. So what did we say was the main idea? So I'm going to try saying it, and then you guys tell me if I'm missing anything or if you have new questions or anything like that. So we said the theme of the perek basically is that because Hashem is the supreme being, I guess is the best way to say it, who rules over everything, therefore it's his will that determines the order, the social order in the universe, and that it might seem like things are hopeless, and that people who are poor are doomed to the dung heap, and barren women are doomed to not have any kids. But if Hashem wills it, then he can completely reverse the social order and put the poorest person on the same level as the Nedivim, as the nobles of his nation, and make the barren woman able to be a mother of children, and therefore, and therefore he is even more. I don't like saying he's more worthy of our praise. Someone wanted to say that last time. Well, let's put that on the side for 1 second. And then just the other note that we added last time was that in the ancient world, and this was unthinkable, the idea was that the gods are on the side of the powerful and the rich, and if you are downtrodden or incapacitated in some way, so then that is it's evidence that the gods are not with you, and moreover, that order is immutable. And in fact, I think this works out really well. I didn't think about this particular point last time, that the poor person being raised to be with the nobles is as unthinkable in that type of society as the barren woman giving birth to kids. And to Hashem, there's no difference whatsoever. He can change both of them as he wills. And then the last note we said is that there is also a hierarchy here in terms of a person's alignment with recognition of Hashem and doing his will. That was in the first half. The hierarchy there was people who are chachamim, people who are just, have knowledge, people who are Ovdei Avodah Zarah, but still recognize Hashem. And then above those in the heavens are the heavenly host and malachim. And then the Radak added this thing about the Nedivim being people who are better able to do God's will, especially in the future. So that was the part that we didn't quite get, is like how to unify those assorted last notes. But those are the elements. So let's just take a little while. Anyone have any, I guess, additional insights or questions on this, or thoughts that could help us to glue it together? If not, then we'll go into the next perek. But it'd be nice to get this.
I think at the end of last year, maybe like a comment, and now I also have a question.
Sure.
Okay, so first of all, I think that Pasuk Daled kind of, to me, it kind of ties in with the ideas that we were saying from 7 through 9.
Yeah.
Talking about Hashem being over the Goyim, at least.
Yeah.
Just because we were talking about like hierarchies among people,
yeah.
and so Hashem being over that seems like it's really
that's a good point. I think the reason why maybe I can't speak for anyone else. The reason why I missed that is because we were going. I was in the mode of the Radak, who said that Al Kol Goyim is that they recognize him and that he is, and then that's when he like segued into the Hashem being over the heavens. And I guess I just missed the plain shot of Hashem is above all all the nations, in terms of power and such. Yeah, so that's a good point.
Okay, yeah. I also had a question. I think so. I don't know if we're still saying this, but last time I thought we were kind of saying that like there's like a illusory social order. And then there's like the true social order, and the social order is like
right.
So like people's recognition of Hashem. But I feel like that's a little, to me at least, it seems a little funny. Those don't exactly seem like comparable things. Or maybe we could elaborate on that. Like, it doesn't seem like, people who recognize Hashem to a higher extent are like above the people who don't, in the same way that like social hierarchies work. It just seemed to me like a pretty like loose analogy, sort of.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but that might be because we might be because we're in Gullus, is what I was going to say, but I've got a Sarah Batavis on my mind. But it might be because we're so far removed from that value system. I mean, like, look at Har Sinai. I mean, just look at it. You had Moshe Rabbeinu going up, in his level. Aaron had his own level that was next, and Nadav and Avihu and the Shivim and Zakanim and the Kohanim and then the people. The hierarchy is in terms of closeness to Hashem in terms of their knowledge, or again, there's many manifestations of this, but you also have, let's say, like the the setup of the Machaneh is also like that, of the organized by prominence of doing God's will, or you have the Rambam's palace allegory of, the more knowledge of God you have, then the closer you are to the palace. So like, I'm not using that like as a proof, but I'm saying that these are three examples of organizing the hierarchy in the nation, not around money, not around power, not around looks, not around fame, but around, Yedias Hashem and Avodas Hashem. And I think we're just so far removed from that value system that we don't view it as even comparable, but that's because it's so lacking.
That's interesting.
Yeah, something to think about. I mean, you have another thing also. This is a weird example, but like, this is a very weird example. But when you have let's say a sinking ship, right? So America says, or Western world says, save women and children first, and Halacha says save Kohanim, then save Levim, then save Yisrael, and that's organized in terms of, because we can't evaluate the worth of an individual life, then we do it based on their placement in the system, so there are such hierarchies. Yeah. Or let's say another example. I mean, again, and it's not like one hierarchy. I mean, certain hierarchies trump others. Like, afilu mamzer Talmid Chacham kodem Kohen Amarz, is that the phrase? Right, that even a mamzer who is a Talmid Chacham is honored above a Kohen who's an Amarz, so that's like, but then there are cases where we override we do let the Kohens honor override people, but it's all revolving around like Avodas Hashem and stuff, and it is in the place of the social hierarchies. Like these have ramifications in the nation, historically and like halakhically.
Okay, yeah. I feel like that's a lot more clear.
Okay, good. Yeah, thanks for asking the question. Okay, should we move on to the next perek, and then like next time we say Hallel, then like a bunch of you will email me and say like, oh, I figured it out. I figured this out. There's, you got to know when to move on. So let's move on to the next perek. Okay, now I did not. I theoretically learned this once, but I have not prepared this for this shiur. So we're gonna be looking at it together. Okay, so and I just I think actually, maybe this is my translation. I don't know. We'll see if the translation's good. B'teis Yisrael mi Mitzrayim, Beis Yaakov me'am Lois. When Israel left from Egypt, when the house of Jacob, I guess, left from a people of alien or foreign tongue. I like foreign better. People of foreign tongue. Haisa Yehuda Lakacho. Yehuda became his sanctuary. Okay, that's how our scroll translated it. I would say his holy one. I don't. I guess we'll have to see the Mefarshim how that is. Yisrael mam shlosav. Israel his dominions. Okay, memshala, like rulerships. I don't know his dominions. I don't know exactly what that means. Like the ones whom he rules over, or his ones who rule over. Not exactly sure. Hayam Ra'avayanos, the sea saw and fled. Nous is to flee. Hayarden Yisov La'achor. The Yarden turned backwards. And in case anyone is not aware of the pshat, I believe it's unanimous. This is referring to the Kriyas Yamsuf, on the way out of Mitzrayim, and then the Yarden is the Kriyas HaYarden, the splitting of the Yarden in Sefer Yoshua. Heharim rakdu elim, the mountains skipped like rams. Gavaos kivinitzon, the hills like young lambs. Malacha hayam kisanus. What up, Malacha? Hayam kisanus. Why is it that you flee, O sea? Hayardin tisel v'kor. And I think this is also part of the question. Why is it that you turn backwards, Yardin? Heharim tirkedu elim. So according to Arsko's translation, at least, this is continuing the question. The mountains you skip like rams, gavals giving its own. The hills you skip like young lambs. Oh, there's a word for that. Doesn't the word gambol mean to skip like a lamb? Gambol. We have to use that word. Mountains gambled like lambs. Because how often do you get to use that? Gamble. Okay. Milifnei Adon Chuli Aretz, from before the Lord. Chuli Aretz is a question of what Chuli means. So our scroll translates it as before the presence of the Lord did I the earth. So they're saying Chuli is from Chal, tremble, right? Did I the earth tremble? It's a weird lashon. Milifnei Eloka Yaakov, from before the God of Jacob. Hahofchi Hatsur Agam Maim, who turns the rock into a pond of water. Chalamish Lamaino Maim. They say the flint. I don't know if that's I don't know what that is. I mean, I know what a flint is, but I don't know where they're getting that from. Into a flowing fountain. Now I don't know if you had to assume. I didn't look at the Mefarshim on this yet. If you had to assume what that's referring to, or those are referring to, what would you say it is?
Moshe and the rock.
Yeah, I would assume it's Moshe and the rock. And I'm wondering if it is Moshe and the rock is the flint, and then Hatsur Agamayim is Miriam's well. Just guess. I don't know.
What are the mountains and the hills referring to?
Yeah, that's another question we have to figure out here. I believe when we look, what was that?
Didn't Moshe get water from the rock twice? Like two separate things?
Yeah, but I'm wondering the fact that it could just be that they're using Tsur and Chalamish interchangeably, but this is totally like my assumptions here. I've never looked into this issue, but I always assume we call it Be'er Miriam because it was a well. It wasn't just like water flowing, like it actually was a well. So that's kind of why I'm associating to the Agam Mayim is Miriam's thing, and then Moshe's thing is the second one. And also chronologically, that's the order, is that the Moshe hit the rock after Miriam, died. So then the hills, I'm going to tell you now, even though usually we would look at the Mefarshim here, but just because it's for Pshat, the Radak is going to theorize that the mountains and hills refer to Sinai shaking. And he says, why does it say hills? Because maybe the other hills shook also, which stands to reason. If there were, you can't really have one mountain quaking without all the other mountains in the range quaking. Like that's some, that stretches the limits of physics.
Very localized earthquake.
What was that?
Very localized earthquake.
Yes, yeah.
Just about the translation.
Let's treat that shot for now.
Just about the translation for 5. It says what ails you, which I think.
I like what's up with you, see. Right. I mean,
I was just gonna say that has like a negative connotation.
Yeah, you're right.
And I think that's.
Yeah. What is it with you, OC? Yeah, that's like how we would say it in English. Okay. So, is there a clear pivot here?
7.
Okay, I also think it's 7. What makes you say 7?
1 and 2 sound like an introduction to what it's going to be talking about. Then 3 and 4 are clearly linked to 5 and 6.
Yeah.
And then 7 and 8 seem different. Yeah.
How would you describe the relationship between 7 and 8?
Different.
I should be hydrating still. I think I'm gonna go get some water. Where did I put my water? Oh, I'm right back. I think maybe I just associated it to to Pasuk 8, and that's what reminded me of the water. Yeah.
What, isn't it possibly 5? They changed.
Well, before we get to that, let's just, if we're taking this way, how would you define the difference between 1 through 6 and then 7 through 8? Other than different? I mean, to me, it looks like question and answer. I mean, going with what Isaac said, the first 2 is like setting the context here, and then 3, 4, 5, 6 is making an observation about this weird phenomenon and puzzling about it, and then 7 is giving an explanation for that. So that's how I would say that. Okay, so Donnie, what do you want to say?
It just looks like, when it pivots into the questions, there's a difference, right?
So meaning like 1 through 4 is
Correct.
yeah, it's the other way to go, right? So
I feel
how
that
would we
too.
characterize that, the 2 sides there? I mean, 1 through 4 is now just a reporting of the facts, right? Just a concise Sibur Yitzias Mitzrayim with a weird focus, by the way. I mean, I think we have to acknowledge this, right? This is the Sibur Yitzias Mitzrayim in Hallel, but it's like you would not pick these particular elements in telling the story,
Magas Pachoros. Oh,
Yeah, right.
right.
Maybe something about the Egyptians, enslaving us or something, Yeah,
Or the
and the
people.
weird thing is that they're referring to geographical features or topographic, whatever the proper word is. The sea, the mountains, and then the rock.
The rock could be, though, God, Har Sinai, and not the rock of Moshe, right?
Where
God
was
says
the
there's a
water?
place for him in a cleft.
But was
that's
there water
true.
there? Yeah.
Well, the Mayim Torah and the flint into a flowing mountain sounds like.
Yeah, more like a flowing drasha. All right. All right. So let's ask. So are we? Or should we? Do we like one of these divisions more or less? I like this one because it's more in the middle,
Yeah,
And
also,
also 5, I do agree. 5 and 6 are paired with 7 and 8, so like it does make it seem like that's a more unified, cluster.
it also I think it's easier to think about.
Yeah, I think so. All right, so let's stick with this then. Right, so we see like 1 through 4 is the observations, and then 5 through 8 is the analysis. Maybe is how to say it. Yeah, or something like that. Okay, so let's get all the questions out like we did last time, and then again, this is a very short perek, so we have the luxury to read through all of the Radak. Yeah. All right. So what are the questions here? So I'll say the ones that we've said so far. So why the emphasis on the what does the word topographical mean? Does that refer to land?
I think it's the layout of the land.
Yeah, let me look it up because find topology, like the study of geometric properties and spatial relations unaffected by the continuous change in shape of size of figures. So what do you call a thing?
Topography. You did topology.
Oh, topology. Okay, thanks. Right,
you did topography.
Topography is the arrangement of the natural and physical features of an area. All right, I'm going to go ahead and use that phrase even if it's not complete to refer to the sea and the mountains and the rocks and the desert. So why the emphasis on topography, especially as a Hallel, as a Hallel / quasi Sipur. I know it's not Sibur Yitzias Mitzrayim, but like it is, it's recapping the events of Yitzias Mitzrayim through praise, and so like why focus on these things? I mean, really, no mention of the defeat of Egypt. I think that's the thing that bothers me the most. We always emphasize the no mention of the I guess the yeah, all right, whatever. That it could bother us for different reasons. All right.
Yeah, there's also no mention of the fact that we're going out from Avdus.
Yeah, right. It's not Avdus. It's foreigners. That's another good question. Why is the redemption freedom Exodus? Why is the Exodus characterized as leaving from people of a foreign tongue? Okay. Why not house of slavery? Right? Why not freedom? The usual themes, right? Why not redemption?
It kind of looks to me like this is post Yetzias Mitzrayim, like the immediate aftermath, and then especially because then it talks about the
That is
water.
true. Yeah, that is true. That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, I guess I was thrown off by the
Yarden.
but well, that's the other question. Oh yeah, fine. We'll do that in a second. B'teis Yisrael Mitzrayim. I just took that to mean in Yetzias Mitzrayim, but you're right. This could just be after Yetzias Mitzrayim. Even still, once we're referring to Mitzrayim, like it is still as a way to refer to a weird way to refer to it. Like it would be like it'd be like if you described the American Revolution as when our founding fathers broke free from the people with the funny accents. Like no, when they broke free from the people who oppressed them. Like it's just weird to say foreign tongue. All right, so then yeah, why is the Yarden? What is the Yarden doing in here? What is the Yarden doing here? And don't give me any of this stuff about the oopsies. What did I do? About the all the waters in the world parted, because then you still have to answer the question why the Yarden, Yeah.
Especially given that the Yarden parted at a different time.
Yeah. It was actually, but that might be a clue though, right? Because what relation does the Yarden have to Yetzias Mitzrayim?
It was the fulfillment of it.
Yeah, it was like the fulfillment of it. It was when they were going into the culmination, for Kibush Art. So it is related. It's out of sequence, but then you could chalk it up to that being the same miracle, So that could work out.
Why do we only get the Earth's answer?
Oh, that is true. That's a good question, right? Why do we only get the Earth's answer? Yeah, right. That's a good question. I never noticed that.
The tone of the topography's response seems drastically different in 3 and 4, and then in 5 and 6.
3 and 4 and 5 and 6. Yeah.
Because in 3 it sounds like they're like terrified. Then in 4 they're skipping.
Yeah. Yeah. Hold on. Let me just look at the words again. Rock. Yeah. I mean, there is. Yeah. I was gonna say like maybe that's just the English. But like dancing is dancing. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
dancing in fear.
Yeah. So let's just ask this in general, and then you also have the in 7 is also terror, or not terror, I guess, but like before Milif Neadon Juliards Chal is a trembling. Not a trembling of like excitement to go to Disney World, but like like a fear. Gam kol ha'olam kulo chal mipanecha v'higalos mokino har Sinai. So the question is like, what do we make of the inconsistencies in the personification?
Does that have a connotation of fear or of awe?
Chal, like trembling.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, it could be both. I don't know if those are necessarily mutually exclusive. I'm trying to think where it where we see this in Torah in this way. I mean, is this actually used in the narrative at Har Sinai? Because it says V'yecharad. I know that's trembling. That's the word they use for trembling. I know we also use it in Shofros. Chal mipanecha. Yeah, I'm not sure. I guess we'll have to look to the Mefarshim for that.
Also, it's a weird way to characterize God at the end as like the one who, like, whatever turns a rock into water.
Right.
Like, why not like the creator or something?
Yeah, right. What's up with the oddly specific designation of God at the end, right? Like we're used to the sweeping statements of like Goel Yisrael, Rofe Choleamo Yisrael, not Ha Hofchi Hatsur Gamayim Chalamish Lamainamayim, like highly specific phrase. Yeah.
Maybe that's what the earth has to be scared of.
That's what the earth has to be scared of.
It doesn't want to be turned to water.
Right, right. I mean, it's interesting you say that. I don't think this is shot, but when you said that, I associated to that's the in the Asar Haruge Malchus, in the the Kina that we say on Tisha B'Av and on Yom Kippurim, that when the angels question God's justice for letting Hanina ben Tradion die, is that his name? I think. Then God says, "Be quiet, or I'll turn the entire earth back into water." I don't think it has anything to do with this, but it is something that the earth would be fearful about, because that was the stage in creation before the earth. Is the or at least the dry land, at least. Yeah. All right. Yeah. I mean, so are we? Should we try? I think we should try coming up with a main idea here before we look at the Radak. Even I feel like this potential. This is within our reach.
Just a further question about the last pasuk.
Yeah.
It also seems unrelated to the things that I was just talking about before.
Yeah, it's like throwing in one more miracle. Yeah, so I'll add that. How does the final line fit into the rest of the perek? Yeah, it's weird because like it feels like by the time we're questioning the landscape, then we've already recounted all of the oddities. And then at the end, it throws in another oddity, and it does it in the form of praising God, not in the form of like making an observation. Well, I have an approach, just to let you know, based on the previous one that I'm thinking about now, based on the just going off of this idea that 113 is an introduction, but we can think.
Another question that I have is just about bays. It seems very out of place. Like you could say one is like the setting, but then like two is like talking about like Yisrael.
Yeah.
And then it's just not talking about.
Yeah, that's a good question also. Right. Why are we even? Yeah. Okay. So,
like if you
why
were
are we bringing that in? Yeah.
It would read smoother if you cut out that pasuk.
Yeah. So how? Now, I mean, I can answer that by saying that. I mean, I can't answer that it would be smoother part, but like, it does seem like this is just an elaboration on one, but it still needs to be explained why it needs to be in here. So how does pasuk Beis fit in with the rest of the perek, especially since we don't revisit the theme of the status of the Jews, except in just this brief reference to Elokei Yaakov, but that's not really a reference to the Jews. That's a reference to Hashem.
Can I ask another question?
Yeah.
It seems also a little weird, like we're describing what happened when Jews are leaving Mitzrayim or left Mitzrayim, and we're describing the things we're observing, but then we're talking to the things that are doing them and asking them a question. It's just a weird,
that's also weird
sequence too.
Yeah. So I'm gonna what do we make of the inconsistency in the process of sonification, and then why do we address ourselves to the why do we engage in dialogue with these inanimate features? Yeah,
it's a surprise. It's also a surprise. It's almost like a pivot. Like it sounds like you're about to describe all the amazing things or all the wonders or something,
Yeah.
that we encountered, and then all of a sudden starting to question the particulars.
Right.
It's
Yeah. Strange.
Actually, is the perek even answering it, or just leaving it as a question? I mean, is it saying like that it was because of the Lord's presence that?
Yeah, I mean, I was taking it the way that Donnie asked the question earlier, that's the Earth's answer, which, I mean, the Earth's answer meaning like the mountains, but then the water doesn't really answer.
Oh, I see. Now,
Yeah,
I didn't understand that before.
yeah. I mean, again, I don't know. It's possible that Aretz refers to everything. To the water and the hills. It still is weird. So let me ask you this question, just to take a step here. So what is the connection between this perek and the previous perek?
Well, Yetzias Mitzrayim seems like an example of the kind of thing that we were talking about,
Right.
where there's like a reversal of the way things are set up,
Right.
in society.
Right. So that is about Yetzias Mitzrayim as a whole. So then, what features of this perek relate to that theme?
Like the fact that we're sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Zev.
Just that we're describing like the upheaval of the societal order through through also talking about the upheaval of the natural order.
Yeah, right.
And how those things are like happening at the same time.
Right. So I think that's the idea, is that that this is an even greater / like, I mean, I think it is even greater, even in the ancient world, a greater demonstration of God's mastery over everything is that there is a natural order that is permanent and fixed. Like, water is not supposed to flee and split, and hills are not supposed to jump, and rock is not supposed to turn into water. But the Adon Huli Aretz, or sorry, not the Adon Huli Aretz, that's not what we call him. I think in my mind, whenever I'm reading Hallel, I think I never looked at this actual translation before. So I don't know what I thought Huli Aretz was. I think I just associated it was Adon Haaretz, and Huli must be some sort of other adjective, but for the Adon Kol Haaretz, then these things are just doing whatever he wants. And I think that might be what, I mean, again, I can't explain why it asks them, but like, it is expressing astonishment that like these things are happening, and saying that like the only answer is the fact that these things obey God. They tremble before God, that they these are not, in other words, these are not independent entities that have their own will and their own like choice in the matter. These are not under the dominion of other gods. These things tremble before the Lord of all the earth. So I think that's like very much in line with the previous perek.
So that begs the question that you asked earlier about why it doesn't like refer to us as going out from like base of Adim or like something like that.
Yeah,
because that seems like that would like fit in perfectly,
very nicely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, Amlo A's. That's just a weird way to characterize Mitzrayim. And it's not even the worst part. I mean, and this is why it's weird, but it's like, it's not the worst part of our Avdus. It was like an accidental thing almost,
It was one of our shvachos though, that we didn't change our tongue.
Right. True. Yeah. Yeah. And it is weird also that like we mentioned this fact in Kiddush, right? I mean, Roman Mikol Lashon, like it's expression in Lashonos. I mean, like it almost makes me wonder if there's some sort of other, like, if this is like an idiom or some sort of other like reference that we're supposed to get. I don't even really know. Okay, so in the interest of time, should we take our first pass over the Radak and just, again, it's short, and that way we can like have it in our minds and then like raise more questions as we go? I think that's might be a good approach. Okay, so again, public service announcement. I'm going to say this every time we use a Radak, that there's a good Radak and there's a bad Radak. Okay, if you look on any edition of the Radak available online, the Radak's commentary on this one has 355 words, but using Bar Ilan, which is a good version, it has 581 words. Astounding. Okay, it's missing 230 words. So like if you're okay with just like losing 230 words of Chachma, then like go ahead and use the standard editions, but otherwise use the good editions. All right, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it like I did last time. I'm going to read it fast and then we'll summarize. Okay. Lois medaber b'lashon acher she'eino lashon ivri. Lois means that they speak in some non-Hebrew language. Klomar yatzu me'am shelo hayu mevinim lashona, meaning they went out of a nation that they didn't understand their language. K'moshe kasu b'klalos sheb'mishnah Torah. Oh, there you go. Like I said, an idiom. Like it says in the curses in Sefer Devarim, goy az panim asher lo tishma lashono. A brazen-faced nation that you will not understand their language. Even though it's impossible that the Jews didn't understand their language, because they were in Egypt for many years. Yeah, right. I mean, 211 years. You're gonna start to pick up on some English, especially if you're working for Egyptians. Efshar shekatsasam hayu mevinim oso osam shelo shayu omdim beinehem. So it's possible that some of them understood them who were standing among them and serving them. But then some of them maybe didn't leave their place, which was designated for them, who Eretz Goshen, and that's the land of Goshen. And they spoke Hebrew. So I guess that's kind of like in America, right? It's like you got, the immigrants who come in, and the first generation maybe like only picks up on a few words, but then their kids like speak it. But then you have like the really, 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 like isolated, segregated, insulated groups of people that do keep their language, who are just not mingling with a larger crowd, and so they don't know their language. Okay, I mean it's funny he raises the question though. I mean it's good that he raises the question. So in other words, it's even more problematic than what we said. Is not only is it a weird description of Egypt, but it's just not even like fully true. Okay. Vafilu osam shayu yotzim binehem. Even those among them who went out, meaning I think went out among Egyptians. Im hamitzriim hayu medabrim lashon mitzri behechreach. So even though they spoke Egyptian of necessity, benam levenam hayu medabrim lashonam shehu lashon ivri. But amongst themselves they spoke Hebrew. Okay, fine. So in other words, even if they spoke Egyptian, it still is a foreign tongue. They're not speaking it as a native tongue. They're still maintaining their native tongue. And they were compelled to speak another language. And God, blesses, he took them out from that nation that was foreign. Okay, so that's just proving that Chazal used this way. Okay, fine. All right, I don't. He's not helping us in terms of why it says this. He's just explaining the facts. Okay, next. I don't know why patach as opposed to anything else. Grammar. So it's saying when God took them out from Egypt, he took them as his portion. I'm highlighting this because it looks important. Yeah. So in other words, God took them out of an impure nation and made them his designated sanctified nation. So not his sanctuary, like Art Scroll says, his holy nation, I would say. Okay. Yisrael mam shlosav, and Israel his dominions. Shelo hayu b'mimshelas Mitzrayim ela b'mimshal tel. Okay, they were not under the dominion of Egypt; they were under his dominion. Okay, so I'm also going to change this now. Israel, those who were under his dominion. Yeah. Okay. V'haisa mimshala umamlacha bifnei atzma. Okay, never mind. Maybe I shouldn't change it. And they were their own dominion and kingdom. Lo birishus acher, ella birishus hakel. Okay, I changed back. They were not under anyone else's dominion. They were under the dominion of God. Blessed is he. I never actually noticed this before. I mean, I guess because of the way he's quoting it, that he's emphasizing that the Jews are not under someone else's dominion, but they're only under God's dominion, and they are a mamlacha, meaning you will be under me, really, as a mamlachas kohanim v'goy kadosh, as a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. So, like, I am the king over you, you know. Kolomar tihu mamlacha b'fnei atzma, meaning you are your own kingdom. The tihu li kohanim u'masharsim, but you will be for me priests and ministers. Lo avadim la'amacher, not servants to another nation. The tihu li goy kadosh, and you'll be for me a holy nation. Nivdalim mitumas ha'amim, separated from the impurities of the nations. This is really answering our question about like this is answering our question of what is how does pasuk 2 fit in, and also not so much the people of a foreign tongue, but it is really saying a good summary of Yetzias Mitzrayim, of the post Yetzias Mitzrayim status, you know, that we are going out from being servants of another nation to being like our own kingdom, but also under God, you know, like that's a very specific way to frame it. That satisfies my the weirdness factor of like, are we depicting Yetzias Mitzrayim like this? Umash Amar Yehuda Yisrael. That's also weird, right? That feels like an anachronism because, or not even an anachronism, I guess, depending on who you wrote this, right? If this is David and Melech, then we're all one nation still. But if this is like Elazar ben Azariah that the Malbim quoted, that this is written by Chizkiyahu, then Yisrael and Yehuda were already separate kingdoms, you know? And then that could flow from that could be a reference to Yehuda and Israel are both God's portion and God's kingship. Like it's a political statement almost, you know. Okay, he's not taking that direction. From the time that they went out of Mitzrayim, Yehuda was the leader. The Nosea Rishona, he was the first one to travel, right? Because you had Yehuda was in the eastmost in the camp, and they would go that way, right? Because they were going eastward from Mitzrayim to Israel. Where am I now? Birkas Yaakov Amim. Okay, like Yaakov. Oh, sorry. No, because Yaakov Avihem Shebaruchu Yehuda Ata Yoducha Achacha. Like in accordance with the bracha of Yaakov, Yehuda, you will your brothers will acknowledge you. Gam Amru Ki Yehuda Nichnas Biyam Rishona. Okay, that the Gemara Sota says Yehuda entered into the Yam. That was what's his name? Nachshon ben Aminadav Lamati Yehuda. Okay. Ki Hayu Yisrael Yereim Likanas Biyam. So Israel was afraid of going into the sea. V'amad Nachshon. Oh yeah, Nachshon Nasi Shevet Yehuda v'kafatz Bayam Tchila. He jumped into the sea first. V'acharav Shivto, and then afterwards his Shevet. V'acharav Kol Yisrael. I never heard that part of the Midrash. I always heard it as just Yehuda walked in and then the sea parted. Not that he went in and then his Shevet went in, then Kol Yisrael. I guess he's bringing that in maybe to tie it to the sea parting, which is in the next pasuk. Lefikach Amar Yehuda Lekacho Kihu Kiddush Shem Hakel Yisbach B'Kerev Kol Yisrael. Wow, so he's really taking that seriously here. I mean, when I read the pasuk, I always thought it was just like yeah, Israel and Yehuda and like we're Yehudim and blah blah blah, like, you know, just synonyms. But he's saying like no, Davka Shevet Yehuda is the leader and the one who sanctified God's name. Wow, interesting. Okay. I was gonna say something else. Oh, so yeah, the other thing I was gonna say is not only is he explaining what pasuk 2 is doing there, but he's also showing continuity from 1 to 2 to 3. So that's nice. Okay. Hayam Ra'avianos, the seesaw and I feel like it's more poetic we say the seesaw and split, right? Right, because split can mean to flee and split can mean to part. There you go. Al derech mashal. This is by way of a metaphor. Ki nivku amayim, because the sea split. I'm never gonna get out of my head now. Kilu pachad hayam v'nas mipneim ba'ovram. It's as if the sea was afraid and fled from before them. Ba'avuram, because of them. V'chein hayardin yisov lechor kish avru b'yardin. Okay, fine. So that's not adding anything new. That's just the facts. And just explain the personification a little bit. Hey harim rakdu, the hills skipped or danced. Kamosha amar v'yecharad kol hahar me'od. Oh, so I was right. It does use yecharad. I feel like if I mean, okay, maybe I guess we'll see what he says for Chuli. But amar harim lashon rabim ki Efshar shecharadu v'ra'ashu harim acherim hasmuchim har Sinai. Right, that's what I mentioned. That it's even though it's Har Sinai, it's possible other mountains shook also. V'chein hagvaos hasmuchos lo. Same thing with the hills that were near it. V'giva kamo har. Hill is like a mountain. Elash ena gavoa kamo har, but it's not as tall. V'ena mechudedes barosha kolkach kamo har. And it doesn't. It's not as sharp as a har. Okay, I got to say this story. Not all of you know Sammy Avitan, but those of you who do will appreciate this. We had Sammy come over because I'm associating Pesach and hills and mountains. Sammy came over, spent Pesach Chol HaMoed with us, and he's from Brooklyn. Grew up all of his life in Brooklyn, and we took him. We took him on a drive into the Cascades. And we were driving through our hometown of Yakima, and Yakima is a valley, and it's filled with these majestic hills. So, and we'd been talking to him about the mountains, and and he was like, "Are those the mountains?" And we said, "No, Sammy, you haven't seen mountains yet." And then we got into the Cascades, where it's just these snow-capped peaks that are taller than anything that any Brooklyn kid has ever seen, and he was floored. So that's what I think of when I think of hills and mountains. All right. So what is it with you? See, so the question is to know the answer. Aren't most. As if it's asking why is this? Why are you doing this? Okay. Vatshuva milifnei adon ke'eved hu charad v'za mipnei adonav. Okay, so that's what I was intuitively saying here. That it's depicting these things as servants. So this is actually a good personification. This is answering our question of the not necessarily the inconsistencies, but saying it's like a servant before the master. So the natural forces are nothing but servants of God. Heharim tirkadu, heharim v'hagvos gamkein malachem. Okay, so he's saying you've got to ask the same question there. Milifnei adon. Hashiva haaretz v'amar. So the earth responded and said, "Milifnei Adon, ki haaretz." There you go. Ki haaretz koleles hayam v'hayarim v'harim v'hagvas. Okay, so that's answering question number 8, or question number
4.
Number 4. That it's the earth is all of these features, not just the earth. Where are we? Chuli aretz, chuli makor, hayud kinui hamadaber. V'humi le'el chuliards, right? Not chuli. Mipnei milas aretz shehi mila'el. Don't know all the grammar, but amar chuli upachadi v'rakdi v'nusi milufiden. Oh, he's answering a question, right? So okay, good. So he's saying that the chuli is not just the mountains; it's all of these verbs. Is I, the earth, tremble, and meaning that I, the water, am afraid, and I, the hills, skip, and I, the sea, flees, and I, all of this is before the Lord of the earth. Umihu zeh ha'adon eloka Yaakov, the God of Jacob. I feel like this is another idea, by the way. Okay, so okay, good. This is not answering the question about why not the creator here, but the creation is being subordinated to a higher order, which is the God of Yaakov, which is the mission of Atem Tiyu Lima Melechas Kohanim V'Goy Kadosh and Kiddush Shemo HaGadol, sanctifying God's name in the world. So it's not like God doing, like wonders in the earth for the sake of the earth. It's God subordinating the earth to his plan for Klal Yisrael. I don't know what the significance of that is, but like that's just what the vibe I'm getting here. Shekana osomi beis avadim pakocho. He took them out of the house of slaves with his power. Kihu adon ahakol va'ose kurtsono. He is the Lord of everything, and he acts according to his will. V'im yirtza shiavru b'nei Yaakov biyam uv'yardin dinhu shianusu v'yivku hamayim mipanav kihu ha'adon. Great fleshing out of the mashal here, right? Is they're his people, and if he wants to take them out, then by gum he'll tell the sea to part and it'll part. Hahofchi Hatsur. Okay, let's hopefully he's answered a lot of our questions. This is very good. Let's hope he answers our last question. Hahofchi Hatsur, Kamoshi Yesh Lo Koach Lahafoch Halach Yavesh, just like he has the ability to turn that which is wet or moist dry. Shesam Hayam Lacharava, because he made the sea into dry land. Kain Hofech Hatsur Hayavesh Lach. so too he took the dry rock and made it into moisture. So that is explaining its connection. It still is a weird shevach, but he's it's pairing it with the sea. The Sam also la'agam maim ulamayan maim. He made it into a lake of water and a wellspring of water. Kamosha Kasuv, as it says, okay, so this is Moshe's rock. The Hikisa B'tzur V'yatzumi Menu Maim. Strike the rock and water will come forth. Kihu Adon Ubore Hakol Umoshel B'chol V'lo Yishanu Briosa of Mitzvaso. V'lo Yishanu, meaning he is the Lord, he is the creator of everything, and he rules over everything, and his creations cannot change his command. Meaning, I guess the laws, the water can't follow its own laws. Same thing with the mountain. Even though mountains are the most heavy and stable of all the creations, Kishiyurta Yashuv Kal V'yanua Mehera, when God wants it to transform into something light and swiftly moving, the Yecharad, the Yerakid Kmo Ha'ayel, when he says dance my mountains, like a ram, Laman Yedu Kihu Bore Hakol Vyado Hakol, in order to make known that he is the creator of all and in his hand is everything. See, now that is something that I don't see in the pasuk, but I do see in Yetzias Mitzrayim this is the purpose of Yetzias, of the Makos, of Laman Yedu Babur Teda Ki Ani Hashem B'Keref Haaretz, to know that I'm Hashem in the midst of the land, that I'm Hashem Ki Ein Kamoni B'Chol Haaretz, there's no one like me in the land. Ki Lad Hashem Haaretz, to know that the earth belongs to Hashem. So it is to make known these ideas about God. And again, I don't see that in the perek, that it's talking about making known, but that is in Yetzias Mitzrayim. Okay, so he answered a bunch of our questions. What remains for us now is to put it all together into a main idea, and then to ask the question. So this one, we don't have to ask the question, is it true? Because this is these are events, and this is just a spin on the events, and we know that the events are true from Yetzias Mitzrayim. But then the final question is, what of it? What impact is the shevach supposed to have on us? Because I understand how, like, the first perek is much more relevant to us, that God can change our social standing and change nature on our behalf. This is a much more specific historical event that, yeah, certainly it's great that God did this for them, and certainly we're beneficiaries from that, but we're not really referring to the fact that we're beneficiaries from that here, not explicitly. This is not like, in each and every generation we have to see, every person has to see himself as though he went out of Mitzrayim. This is not like if God didn't redeem them, then we would still be in Mitzrayim today. Like what impact is this supposed to have on us? And especially because it doesn't talk about us so much. It is talking about like the miracles, that he did for them.
I had a comment on the question that you asked before, which was like, kind of like, where in the perek would it say that, or would it show that, like, be pointing to Hashem, I guess? I don't remember exactly what the comment was in the Radak, but I think the fact that a question is being asked is kind of like,
I
gets
see.
you there.
Because that's like a knowledge seeking thing.
Yeah, like this is something that prompts a question, and then
that's
the
good. Okay, that's a good answer. Right. So just the way I asked the question was, where do we see that the purpose of all of this is to convey knowledge about Hashem? And so Tamara's saying that the fact that we're asking questions, hey, why are you guys changing from your normal patterns, and saying, oh, it's because we're afraid of the Lord of all the earth. That's part of the personification, that the earth is communicating to us this idea about Hashem being its Lord. That's good. That's a good answer. Okay, so let's stop here for today. And again, I kind of actually like this pattern. I don't know if this is gonna hold. I like the pattern of starting a new perek on Thursday when we have slightly longer. That way it gives me time to think about it on Shabbos and over the weekend. And then we have our shorter session on Tuesday where we try to tie it together, and we've had let it have time to roll around. So again, we'll hope it works out this way, but let's do that over the weekend. And again, it's very handy to do prokim that we know, because you could think about it without having the text in front of you.
Yeah, I'd actually like to do all of Hallel.
Okay. I'm fine with that. I don't know. I guess we'll see what mood strikes us after this. But certainly in general, I would like to do the rest of Hallel. Good idea.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that's it for tonight. All right, so I'm going to stop the recording, and then the only person, let's stop the recording. Only person I am